Hello, welcome to GBD and to today's real trade policy conversation over an imaginary cup of tea. The tea can come from anywhere, Tacoma to Tokyo, from char to chai. I'm Judge Morris with the Global Business Dialogue, and with me today is Yuri Unno, Director for International Trade Policy at Toyota North America, with offices in Washington, D.C. Yuri is a graduate of Pennsylvania State University, Erie, at Barron College, Barron College. She earned her master's degree from the Elliott School of International Affairs at George Washington University. And she joined Toyota in 1999, where she represents the company on a wide range of international issues. Recently, for example, Yuri led Toyota's work on the negotiations for a replacement for NAFTA, the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement, or USMCA, which is now the unifying agreement for the three economies of North America. She's a member, indeed a past chairman, of GBD's Board of Advisors. We at the Global Business Dialogue are proud of that and grateful to Yuri. Thanks for doing this, Yuri. Now let's turn to the issues.
Yeah.
This is 2020, and so the first question is always about COVID-19. As one of the largest companies in the world, and certainly one of the major automobile producers, Toyota will have been affected both by the virus and by the regulations that have grown up in response to it in the United States at all three levels, federal, state, and local. If you could talk a bit about how the COVID-19 and government responses have affected Toyota, that would be a really great start.
Yes. So, of course, the safety is the #1 priority for Toyota. And we have implemented the new guidelines, procedures, and process in place at all locations to ensure the safety of our teammates. Our plants have been open since mid-May, but for the other locations like our Texas headquarters or R&D centers in Michigan, unless your physical presence is required for your work, we are to work from home until June next year. Now, because of the COVID, a lot of people are turning into buying cars and moving away from public transportations and ride sharing. So the dealers have been open, and to do that safely, they have also implemented safety protocols and guidelines to ensure the safety of the customers as well as their employees.
That's really helpful. On the trade side, you've been working in trade policy for a long time, and obviously trade's seen a lot of changes recently, and one of the bigger changes is this switch from NAFTA to USMCA. The automobile provisions of USMCA are really critical parts of that agreement. Could you talk about how difficult it is for Toyota and for the other producers of automobiles in North America to meet the requirements of USMCA, whether they relate to rules of origin or other elements of the agreement?
Yes, thank you for the question, Judge. You know, NAFTA was already very, very stringent compared with other FTAs that exist in the world. The requirement for the regional content for NAFTA was 62.5%, and this was the highest in the world of any FTAs. So now that's brought up to 75%. So imagine that, right? And in addition to the local content requirement for the vehicle, they added 3 more requirements. So you have to meet all 4 requirements to qualify for duty-free status. So the first one, of course, is steel and aluminum that you use for the vehicle. Has to come from 70% of that has to originate from North America. Second, 40% of your vehicle parts have to come from the suppliers who pays at least $16 per hour. This essentially excludes any Mexican suppliers. Now, the third is, of course, the content for the vehicle itself. But fourth, and this is probably one of the very difficult part of the agreement, is that they identified 6 key components for the vehicles, like engines and transmissions, steering wheels, things like that, that they all separately have to be originating from North America. So even if your vehicle itself has 75% of the content, if one of these 6 components are not originating, you don't qualify for the duty-free status. So it is very stringent and designed to create more jobs in the United States. Of course, Toyota has been supportive of USMCA from the start, and our goal is to continue to meet the new requirements and continue with our localization plan in the United States.
Thanks, Yuri. That's helpful. Could you talk a bit about Toyota's production in the United States? In other words, how much do you produce here? Where is it? What states and so forth? Yeah.
Yes, thank you for the question. So we have 10 manufacturing facilities in the United States. The 10th one actually is a joint venture with Mazda, and it's being built in Alabama right now. Our biggest plant in the world is located in Kentucky. So we have very significant presence in the United States, and in fact, US is one of our export hubs for Toyota.
Okay, so I was going to ask if everything was sold here, whether you exported some. Where do the exports go?
Yeah, so, because of USMCA, a lot of it goes to Canada and Mexico, but most of the models we produce in the US are only produced in the US. So we send our vehicles to places like Australia, Latin American countries, to Middle East. It's really all over the world.
That's helpful. Now, as a really big company, obviously Toyota is affected by trade policy developments all over the world. No, I'm not going to ask you about all of them. But there is one outside the United States that I would like to know how you look at it, how you see it. This has to do with the trade agreement that is being negotiated, it's up and down, between the European Union and the United Kingdom, part of the Brexit process. The hope is to have an agreement in place before the current arrangement runs out at the end of this year. Does Toyota have a view? Obviously, I mean, the 2 big choices are deal or no deal. Do you have a preference?
Yes, definitely a deal. We have a plant in the UK as well as a few plants in the EU area. So production parts are supply chain is integrated. And of course, our UK plant not only use the production parts that's been imported from the EU, they also export the finished vehicles back to the EU. So if we have to start paying duties for the production parts and then the exported vehicles later, it's a lot of additional cost for Toyota. We would love to see a very successful Brexit.
Well, a lot of people will join you in that hope. I'm one of them. Separately, the UK is also involved in a negotiation with the United States. Now, that may not be as big, but does Toyota have an interest in those negotiations?
Yes, so we do export our production parts from the US to the UK and import service parts from the UK to the US market. So we do have some trade between the 2 countries, but the volume is still limited. So the impact for Toyota is still limited, but as a global company, of course, we do support free trade agreements. And because of that, we do support the US-UK FTA.
That's not surprising, and let's see where that goes. Closely related to trade, of course, is the issue of jobs and the workforce, your North American workforce. That ultimately leads to discussions of Toyota's requirements for skilled workers and training. Could you talk a bit about Toyota's workforce in America? Roughly how many people does the company employ in this country? What kind of training programs and so forth?
Yes, we have over 184,000 workers together with the dealers earning wages from Toyota. And we do have several different workforce training programs. So the first one, of course, is at the plants and at all the plants that we have in the United States. We have a partnership with the local community colleges and high schools to train the students with the skills that they need for today's advanced manufacturing. And today's manufacturing is very high tech. You need a special skill. So we have this program that we created and started in our Kentucky plant called Advanced Manufacturing Technicians Partnership. And now the partnership had expanded to 12 states with 400 companies. So that's been very successful. Of course, at the dealers level, we have automotive technicians training program called T10, and we do partnership with our dealers, both Toyota and Lexus dealers, over 1,500 of them throughout the country, to make sure that they get a skilled workforce ready to work at our dealership with the necessarily technical background in the technical area. Service area. So similar program we have with the Department of Labor and Hiring Our Hero, of course, is called M10 Program. And we do partnership with them to train and help transition the active duty service members, veterans, and reservists. So we are very proud of all these programs, and they all have been very successful.
That's a big help. But in a very short time, you've covered an awful lot of ground and given a lot of information, particularly emphasizing Toyota's very, very strong and important contribution to the U.S. economy. It's quite amazing. If there's anything you want to add, of course, I want to hear it, and I'm sure others do too. Do you want a last word, Yuri?
Thank you. As always, I enjoyed being part of Global Business Dialogue and talking with you, Judge. So thank you very much for the opportunity.
Okay, well, I think that sort of does it for now. I wanted to thank everyone who's been supportive of Global Business Dialogue, who helps us in participating in these kinds of discussions, and especially you, Yuri, who watches the YouTubes and looks at the T-Talk quotes. YouTube's pretty new. We're still working at it, as you know. But we'll be doing another one of these real trade policy conversations soon over another imaginary cup of tea. So watch your inboxes, stay in touch, and have a great day. And for now, goodbye.